I have miles and miles ahead of me, tales to listen to, time to spend. Up ahead, the road is bending. Wonder what's around the bend.
Hello, I'm Charles Kuralt. We're off again to meet a few people on the back roads of America. These are people you know, not from the front pages. They've never been on the front pages. They're people you know from next door and down the block. Their stories are some of my favorites from 25 years on the road. We have in store for you on this leg of our journey beacons and baubles and as barren a place as you'll ever see. Here are the beacons, lighthouses keeping ships and sailors safe from grief, but not anymore with keepers of their own.
It's with some sadness that we're gathered here to mark the end of an era for this lighthouse. The light will still shine, and the horn will still sound, but for the first time in 165 years, there will be no people here to tend the light. To the last 4 keepers of the light, you're the last in a long chain of light keepers here at the Isles of Shoals.
And here are the baubles dredged up, literally dredged up, by a man in Springfield, Oregon. Wait till you see where he finds these treasures. And here is the barren place I mentioned. It's our first stop. Loving County is the emptiest county in the United States. It covers 669 square miles and has a population of 91 persons. That's about one lonely soul for every 7 square miles. Loving County doesn't have many people, and it doesn't have much else.
There's no other county like this one. We don't have a cemetery. We don't have a roads. We don't have nothing.
We don't have a hospital or a doctor or nurses or we don't have any stores or, department stores or anything like that.
There are no motels in the county, no movies, no newspaper, no radio, no TV, no pool hall, no bowling alley, no McDonald's, no Burger King, no Wendy's, no Kentucky Fried Chicken. There is one road in Loving County. Occasionally it brings a tourist. Almost always somebody who missed a turn in Odessa and came here by mistake. There is one town. It's called Mentone. That's it, right there. It has exactly 2 businesses. Mattie Thorpe's gas station with a couple of pumps outside and a little store inside. This is the closest thing to a supermarket in Loving County. And there's Newt Keene's Tavern. If you've seen the gas station and you've seen the tavern, you've seen about all there is to see. If a stranger came to town and wanted to see the bright lights, though, what would you tell him?
Here in Mentone, I tell them keep going on through. Just don't slow up, just keep going.
J.J. Wheat is a character. He's also fabulously, unimaginably rich. Because there is one thing Loving County has. Oil. J.J. Wheat's father, who was also J.J. Wheat, drilled for oil out here in the early 20s. Everybody said he was crazy. Then in 1924, his first well came gushing in. And everybody said he was the smartest man in West Texas. What was it that made your father believe there was oil here when nobody else thought there was?
I asked him that same question 2 or 3 times. I said, Papa, whatever gave you the idea that there was oil over there? He says, oh, I just had a damn idea. Shut up. And that's all he ever said.
By the early 1930s, Mentone had 2 hotels and more than 1,000 people. Then the Depression came and the people went. The oil remained. That is why the one thing to see in Loving County is pumping. And that is why J.J. Wheat is driving around in a new Mercedes-Benz. Of course, he didn't always drive a Mercedes-Benz. You had those Rolls Royces.
Yeah, they ain't worth a damn. Sorriest car made. Yeah.
J.J. Wheat grazes some cattle, too. He's hardly ever made any money on the cattle, but they have their uses.
Well, hell, goddamn, I got to have something to lie about, so I can for deduction. I can't just flat tell a black lie. I got to have a little room there playing, you know. So that's it.
So those 300 cows are 300 deductions walking around
Just
out
about. So is all these old fences. I rebuild them every damn year.
You may be wondering why, if there's all that oil in the ground and J.J. Wheat has more money than he knows what to do with, why there aren't more people living around here. Well, there is something else that Loving County doesn't have. It doesn't have drinking water. If you want water to drink in Loving County, you have to truck it in from someplace like Pecos, 25 miles away, at $1.20 or so a barrel. Nearly everybody in Loving County spends a certain part of each day carrying water in a bucket for cooking and drinking. But nobody we met has any plans to leave.
I like it out here. I love every bit of it. I love the weather and the sunshine, the sandstorms, the hailstorms, the rain, when we do get some, if we ever get any damn rain.
How long has it been since you had any rain?
Last summer we did, it'd soon be 2 years, getting close to 2 years since we had any good rain.
I just think that if I were as rich as you are, I might choose to live in Monte Carlo or someplace.
Well, I went through all that bull when I was younger, when I was able to. It wouldn't do me a damn bit of good if I'd in Monte Carlo now in some of those places. All I can do is look.
So J.J. Wheat stays on the land that produces his millions, getting along in a county that has no schools, no country clubs, no lawyers, no banks, no plumbers, no electricians, no carpenters, no dentists, no stockbrokers, no undertakers. There's no unemployment in Loving County, no welfare, no budget deficit, no crime to speak of. There is a sheriff, Elgin Jones, and he has a jail, but there's nobody in the jail. There are 14 other county employees, which figures out to 1 out of 6 county residents with a county job. With so few people, and so many of them working for the government, you might expect the taxes to be something fierce. Well, hardly. Think of what you pay in property taxes, and then think of what Edna DeWeese pays. She has a nice house, 4-car garage, about 110 acres of land, and her property tax bill last year?
I think I paid $4.47 taxes.
Residents don't pay taxes in a county like this. The taxes are paid by the big oil companies, with whatever they've got left after they pay J.J. Wheat his royalties each month. How it gladdens the heart of an old cattleman to see that machinery where the cows used to be.
That's a pump jack there. That's the best cows of all. They really pay off. It's a pump jack. Yeah, them's good cattle. I wish I had a whole goddamn ranch full of them. Just suit the hell out of me. That's what I like. Them's the best cows we got right there.
The pumps pump money all day and all night. They are the most prominent feature of Loving County. 669 square miles, 91 people, no water to speak of. Not much of anything to speak of, except wide open spaces and fresh air and the beauty of the West Texas sunset. It is the emptiest county in the country. But at this time of day, J.J. Wheat likes to look up and admire the scenery. A thimble, a watch, a diamond ring, a couple of knobs from old bathroom fixtures, and a coin from Vichy, France. Put them all together under plastic with hundreds of other rings and needles and marbles and knobs, and you have the official city seal of Springfield, Oregon, lovingly assembled by Russell Joukowsky, who is not an artist, but a sewer cleaner. Every item in his mosaic came right out of the Springfield sewers. You'd be surprised what you can find down in the sewers. You'd be surprised, but nothing surprises Russell Joukowsky anymore.
More marbles are coming. I see a lady's lipstick coming up here.
The city of Springfield has a new water jet which each day scours the sewers as never before and deposits the debris of a century at Russell Zholkowski's feet. After shoveling it up to the surface, he simply sifts through the muck and collects his reward.
And looks like I struck it rich.
Yeah, look at there.
We have a piece of jewelry here with about 15 diamonds in it.
I suppose they're real diamonds?
I wouldn't know at the moment, but it looks promising here.
What do you know? With a sigh, Mrs. Zholkowski long ago yielded the dining room table to his passion. Here, Russell can peruse at leisure the wonderful things he has rescued from the mire and boiled and polished. How long did it take you to find all these things that are on this table?
This that you see on the table is a year's work for us right at the moment.
You found all these things in the last year?
Just in the last year. And there's more coming every day.
Why do you bother to clean it all up and save all this junk?
Well, it's kind of a little story there. They kind of call me a little pack rat, so I keep packing it away and putting it up in my attic.
Russell Zholkowski works in the sewer, but his head is in the clouds, for he knows that the diamond stick pin some father's little boy threw down the toilet in 1911, the wedding band that slipped from some matron's finger while she was washing dishes in 1946, all such treasures will eventually come to him.
I feel very sad because I feel I've left a part of me to the ships and to the sea and those who depended on the lights that we tended.
This is the stuff of songs and stories, to climb to the top of a tower and light a flame that guides ships past the shoals and headlands and safely into port. At the turn of this century, America's ocean shores and waterways were dotted by 1,000 lighthouses. All of them had keepers, men and women who lived to keep the lights burning. Only 23 manned lighthouses are left. Soon there will be just one. The lighthouse keeper is stepping into history.
It's with some sadness that we're gathered here to mark the end of an era for this lighthouse. The light will still shine, and the horn will still sound, but for the first time in 165 years, there will be no people here to tend the light. To the last 4 keepers of the light, you're the last in a long chain of light keepers here at the Isles of Shoals.
Kind of sad about it. We used to get in touch with one another occasionally, months before. But now I'm the last one, so there's no one to get in touch with.
Yes, romance certainly is gone. And in 1989, there won't be any left.
The keepers of the lights have stood up to wind and water, but time and technology have defeated them. They're being replaced by batteries, by electronics. Once, lighthouse lamps were fueled by whale oil. The flame in the tower goes way back into human history. It's always been a symbol of trust and sympathy and solicitude.
It gives me a sense of peace and security and the knowledge that it has been a fortress or a sentinel for so many people to save their lives in the ship. And I think I feel that very keenly, that I helped do that. And that tower is a part of me.
Constance Small lived in lighthouses along the New England coast for almost 30 years. Her husband Elson was the official keeper, but together they tended the light and bell that ships depended upon. It was more than a job. It was a calling. They followed their calling on desolate Avery Rock, Maine in the 1920s and on Doshit Island, Maine in the 30s and 40s.
I was always a timid child, very timid. I was afraid of the water and I was afraid of height. And I had to go into both. We were very close to nature, and nature became very important in our lives.
Nature wasn't always kind. Constance Small remembers one snowy day when her husband had gone ashore. She had to start the bell, but the bell striker had broken down. She had to ring the bell by hand.
And I started pulling on those ropes, counting 1, 2, until I thought I had 15 seconds. And then I pulled the rope twice, because the characteristic of that bell was 2 strokes every 15 seconds. And I pulled it for an hour and a half till my hands were so blistered I just could not pull it another stroke. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? So finally I got down on my knees and looked up under the machine, and the hammer that struck the bell, the joint had come apart. And so I worked and got that together and put the cotter pin in, and it went just fine.
Frank Schubert is the last civilian lightkeeper in this country. He has lived in lighthouses in New York Harbor since 1937. Every day he climbs the 87 steps to the top of Coney Island Light, where he's been keeper since 1960.
You clean the lens, check the lamp, and check everything that's operating, make sure everything is operating right, so that when the light goes on at night, you don't have any problems with it.
Frank Schubert has been more than just a light keeper. He's been his brother's keeper.
Quite a few times we had to take the people off the rocks here. There was a man, his 3 children, and his grandfather, or rather his father. We had to take them all off the boat. The engine conked out, and then they ended up on the rocks down here, and the seas were getting rather heavy. Just about the time we got the last one off the boat, she was pretty well disintegrated with the pounding on the rocks.
Constance Small remembers periods of many months when she didn't see anyone but her husband.
I think a lot of it I missed, too, was hearing other people's voices. You know, it's wonderful to be together, and our relationship was wonderful. But you still needed to hear other voices, which you didn't. Elson could go ashore for the mail, and he would enter in the discussions and get the news, and his mind would be refreshed. But you see, I had little, well, I didn't have any contact, you see, and so my mind wasn't challenged the way that his was.
Their last station was Portsmouth Light, New Hampshire. That was in 1948. We brought her back to remember.
We walked around the catwalk of the tower, and that's when he asked me how I felt leaving the lighthouse life. And I said, well, I felt sad. I did. I felt very sad. I felt so lost in a way, because it seems though I'd given the most of my life to the sea and the ships that had depended on the lights we tended. So finally, we went back in the tower, and he said, it's time to extinguish the light.
For almost 50 years in New York Harbor, Frank Schubert has been guardian to a light and witness to great ships sailing outward and returning. When all of America's lighthouses are automated, he'll still be there. The whole epic story of the lighthouse keeper will come down to this one man in this one place. Well, time to say goodbye until our next trip together. We've heard about a story up the road here, but we kind of hope we never get there. With luck, we'll stumble upon something more interesting along the way. I can see the road is bending. Wonder what's around the bend.
All these years I've been a-wondering, just when I think I'm near the end, I always see the road is bending, and I wonder what's around the bend.